Curiously Veg Radio is brought to you by Thrive Market. Thrive Market is absolutely wonderful because it's a revolutionary online marketplace with a mission to make healthy living easy and affordable for everyone. We use it ourselves. We love ordering from them and getting food delivered right to our door. They also have organic and GMO-free products and up to 50% off products every day. They also have free shipping. I mean, come on, you can't get better than that. Say if you're wanting, I don't know, Bragg's Nutritional Yeast to try out some nooch on your favorite little veggie dishes, you can get it from Thrive Market. And Thrive Market's members pay a low member fee of $59.95, and that's less than $5 a month, and currently offer free national shipping on orders of $49. Like I said, free shipping, can't beat it. So start your free month trial now. Yes, that's it, free month. You get a whole free month of getting whatever goodies you want delivered right to your door by going to curiouslyvegradio.com/Thrive Market and sign up and get that good stuff delivered to your door.
And Curiously Veg Radio is sponsored by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/CuriouslyVegRadio. Between working on all the sites we have and getting this magazine ready, I don't have too much time to read. But what I do have time to do is listen to How Not to Die, Discovery of Foods Scientifically Proven to Prevent and Reverse Disease, written by Michael Greger, MD. You can get that title and over 180,000 other titles for your Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Get your free audiobook download now at audibletrial.com/CuriouslyVegRadio.
You're listening to Curiously Veg Radio, WCVR, featuring the Vegan Renegade and the Geek.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 31 of Curiously Veg Radio, which is a movement to open a dialogue between vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, and non-plant-based people alike in an effort to help educate and open the hearts and minds of others, where we educate, not intimidate. Oh yeah. And if you enjoy the show, you like the interview I have today, I'm not going into it in here in a second, but if you like the show, like the conversations we're having, you would like to support us and help, pay for all the stuff we have to do and everything we have to do to get the show to you, you can do that at our website. You can also find us on social media, and please send us an email if you'd like to be a guest on the show or a guest host. Kind of, sit and banter with me back and forth a little bit. You can do all of that at our website at curiouslyvegradio.com. All the links are in the header and the footer and the menu and all over the place, as well as all of our previous episodes up and ready for your listening for your ear holes. And I also, if you be so inclined, leave us a review. I love reading reviews, and iTunes is a great place to do it. Give us a good review, help people find us a little better. If you're not on iTunes, if you have another app, give us a heart, a star, a like, send me a message, shoot me an email. Let me know how we're doing. Ask me any questions. Any review you have, I'll read on the air, even if it's only 3 emails. Speaking of review, we actually have a new one. This one is from Wolf Bunny. Wolf Bunny makes me think of Bunnicula, for all of you who remember that story. I don't know why. I guess it was because there was a dog in the story. So I'm assuming maybe Wolf Bunny, maybe you have a dog and a rabbit. Maybe that's your thing. And it's bunnies are awesome. So I applaud the fuzzy long-eared family member you have there. So the title of this review is "I Don't Even Like Podcasts." Okay, all right, you have my attention. You have my attention, and 5 stars no less. Wolf Bunny heard the news that you gotta get 5 stars. It's a rule. Your computer might blow up if you don't. It's a rule. So Wolf Bunny writes, "I'm not one for podcasts usually. My attention span is not great. I just listened to 2 episodes back to back, with a 3rd one downloaded and ready to play. This is much more entertaining than I would have expected. Thank you." No, Wolf Bunny, thank you. And I hope my shorter intro there at the beginning is playing well into your short attention span. Trust me, I could completely understand that. My my ADD kind of like bounces all over the place. I don't know how I get things done. Well, I don't get things done. Let's be perfectly honest. I'm not getting anything done. But I am back. I am back at home with my my four fur kids. Most of them are sleeping, and one is keep running in here, meowing at me, wanting me to go play with him. Doesn't understand that I have things to do. But I am back from LA. Last episode had a chance to chat with Liz in person. That was awesome. I had play with her pug. It was very, very awesome. I love her pug. Whenever we do video chats for work and stuff like that, Penny is always in the mix in some fashion. And but I also had an opportunity to interview someone who I have been wanted to have on here for a long time, probably about as long as I've been with MFA. And it is Liz Wolf. Liz Wolf is the VP of investigations. Her job is to look for, hire, and train investigators. So all the MFA and investigation videos you've seen, someone has to be trained, and they kind of have to go kind of like covert and go undercover and go into these these conditions, these slaughterhouses, and film them. A lot of times in really terrible conditions, witnessing things that many of us avert our eyes to, and it's definitely a hard job. She did investigations for quite a while. As you'll hear, she started out with pet shops. Actually, I know in the area here, there's a organization that is constantly investigating a local pet shop, and they use breeders and things like that. So they're investigating that. So it's something very similar. But she goes into her beginning, how she started with investigations, and she moved into doing essentially work investigations, where she applied for position. She went to these slaughterhouses and filmed the conditions, and then put that out into the public and showed people to see what was going on. We don't get for those listening, maybe you're a little worried about how graphic this does not get graphic. There may be some words here and there, but we definitely don't describe anything. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I hope you enjoy the interview with Lindsay Wolf. A little bit of a warning for the first 10 minutes or so. A little bit. There's a bit of a hum. We were at an Airbnb, and then we think someone below is probably running their washer or something like that, and had a bit of a hum. So if you can get to the first 10 minutes or so, it starts a couple minutes in, lasts about 10 minutes. Get through that. I've tried to kind of get it out, setting the audio right. But that's it. Other than that, it was an amazing interview. Lindsay is a riot. We always laugh and have fun when we chat. And it's probably one of the most eye-opening kind of behind-the-scenes interview that we've had so far. So, again, don't waste any more of your time. Everyone, please enjoy Lindsay Wolf, Vice President of Investigations for MFA.
Is that how we're going to start?
Is that how we're going to start it? No. Lindsay, so thanks for taking time out of this busy week and from the protests. You've had a fun day, we've talked about, to sit down with all this equipment.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Honored to be sitting here with you, David.
After we talk so much on the phone, and I disappoint you so much all over the phone and email.
On a regular basis, I would say. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
There's plans to fix that, though.
Our plans to make it worse, I think, is probably your goal in life, is what it feels like. No, that's not right?
No, the plans to make it worse. It'll get better. I'm just trying to go around all the problems we have now to get to the solutions.
Okay.
Speaking of solutions.
Yes. Speaking of solutions.
Yes, you're head of. What is your title? If you would introduce yourself, what is your title? What do you do exactly?
Lindsay Wolf, Vice President of Investigations at Mercy for Animals.
Okay. What do you do with as vice president of investigations?
So I manage our investigations department.
All right.
We focus on employment-based investigations, where investigators get hired to work at factory farms, slaughter plants, basically any industry where animals are raised and killed for food.
Okay.
So we get hired to work at these facilities just like any other employee would be hired to work there. And we do the job that we're hired to do while covertly recording evidence of what we're witnessing on a day-to-day basis.
All right.
It's kind of in summary, very short.
I feel like
summary.
you've gone through the spiel at least once in your life.
Really?
Yeah, it seems like hers. I'll forgive it though. So as a little bit about yourself. So you are vegan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. How did you come to this conclusion?
The veganism conclusion?
Yeah. What is your vegan story, as we tend to say?
Yes, everyone loves to hear everyone's vegan stories.
Yes.
I do as well.
That's fun.
Yeah. So for me, it was a slow transition. Started at an early age. My parents will tell you, is even before I can remember, that I've always been very drawn to animals. So our family dog, I would just curl up with at a young age. Anytime there was an animal, I was just drawn to that animal. I think that's a pretty common kid thing, though. And then when I eventually learned that what I was eating was animals, I was shocked and horrified by this concept of, I grew up loving animals, and then all of a sudden found out that, wait, we're eating animals. Something is wrong here. And so then this was around age 7-ish when it first, I think, started. And so then I proclaimed to my parents that I'm going to be, I don't know that I even knew the word vegetarian back then. I'm not eating animals. You're telling me to eat animals. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And I grew up in Iowa in the 80s. So this was unheard of. It was basically like, something is wrong with our child. That was the sort of, I think, mentality back then, was like, we got a broken one. What do we do? What do we do about this? I don't even know. So initially it was, we had the rule that, you can't leave the dinner table until you finish your meat.
Right.
It's kind of like, you're at the dinner table with family, you can't leave the dinner table until you finish your meat. So I went through all these different tactics of trying to get out of it. Now, feeding the dog, they caught on to really fast, right? Okay, that's an easy one. And then so I would try to hide it in pieces of bread, and ball up these pieces of bread surrounding this meat, and just trying to hide it. And then what really worked the best for the longest amount of time, I would shove chunks of meat in my socks at the dinner table, and then I would excuse myself to go to the bathroom and flush them down the toilet.
It works, I guess. Yeah,
yeah. Well,
how long did it work? I think.
I don't even know. Well, that's the thing, is I don't even know. But eventually, it was my parents, they realized that this was a very dedicated cause to me, and this meant a lot. And I was throwing really big fits about this, and so they were. And my parents have always been really, really supportive. I think that in general, they were like, "This is what we need to do because this is what's best for our child." Whereas I think that's an education. A very common education problem. People think that is what we need to be big and strong, and
right.
So, but then they just, I don't know, they accepted it and were like, okay, well, whatever. You just do whatever you want to do then.
you can't fight it at some point. You just got to get.
I know. Yeah. I think they were just really sick of me doing things like shoving meat in my socks and flushing it down the toilet.
Wow.
So, so then it was. So then it was vegetarian for quite a long time.
I think you told me 17 years or 14 years, something like that, didn't you?
It was, really started at age 7. And then before I transitioned to veganism, gosh, maybe 12 or 13
Yeah, I figured something like that.
ago.
Yeah, I think you told me something. You told me the very, very short version of this, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was vegetarian for a very long time before going vegan because, I think most people, you think that, this is what I always told myself anyway, was oh, they're not killing the animals. This is what, the animals do. They like cows. I never even realized that cows had to be kept pregnant in order to keep producing milk. I feel like it's so stupid, but I think that...
I'm the same way.
I think that a lot of people are actually like that. It's not a thing that people talk about, but it's when I learned those things, was oh my God, how did I Because I think that's just that we don't think about those things, right? And so I think that like cows are this like weird super species animal who's like just a milk producing machine. I don't know.
And if you don't milk them, they get uncomfortable and it hurts, and you have to milk them so they feel better.
People tell you that. That's what people want you to think.
And they're happy.
Makes you feel warm and cozy inside. I'm doing good things for the animals. No.
Exactly. They're happy on a farm, eating grass, walking around, just mooing to be milked. Yeah.
It's so sad. So then when I started learning those types of things, then it was very easy to cut out those products. Yep. And then when I did learn about those things, it almost made me view those industries worse because of the longevity of suffering of cows constantly being impregnated and then having their babies ripped away. And from a personal standpoint, when I actually witnessed that for the first time, that is gut-wrenching. When you watch a baby calf like taken away from their mother immediately after birth, and this calf has just been brought into the world, has no idea what's going on, it just is a baby animal, and then poor mom has just gone through the birthing process, and now someone is just like dragging their baby away. And so she is very distressed, and she's running after her child like just, like any mother would do. And what I found was interesting was not only the mother of the baby calf was being taken away was distressed, but all of the other mothers would come and chase after also, trying to do whatever they could in that situation. But I mean, cows are such, they're very, very large, gentle animals, and so they're, they just, what are they going to do?
And they're pack animals, or live in herds, so they're going to defend each other and be there for each other and everything else.
And so all of those things, and then of course egg-laying hens is an entirely different story. Similar, I guess, situation, but of course then we have the extreme confinement issues of battery cages and
with pigs and
things like that. So anyway, kind of detracting from where we went here a little bit, but vegetarian for a long time before going vegan, then learned this other information,
more terrible stuff.
And then but my passion toward investigation started like as I was getting older also. I imagine that's something that you're also interested in knowing.
As you've seen the questions already, yes. So how you got involved in investigations, and like how you got started and things like that.
So it really, they're all, I think, it's all the issues are combined together. It's like my love of animals, the not wanting to eat them, and then for investigations, it started really in pet stores was how I got started. As kids, I think we're taken to pet stores, and so I would see animals, and I always got really excited about going to the pet store. But then I would see these really sad situations of animals who were being, I remember seeing like hamsters being like dumped, or like employees just like handling them kind of roughly, or like one time a hamster like bit an employee's hand, and the employee just like went to like flick the hamster almost, and and so when I would see just like overcrowding, injuries, illnesses, things like that in pet stores, and so I went in with this like a giant camera with like one of those flashes where you old school, we turn on, it's like bring, like
yes. You had to wait for the light to come on.
I know. I was super high tech with my covert tactics back then. I really was on top of things.
You had a really big hat that held the camera inside of it. You had to balance.
Yes. I was really espionage gear was so I mean I didn't have anything else, it was just like, here's a problem, here's a camera that I have, this Kodak camera for like $12, I'm sure that so I would just sort of like, I started documenting those things, and this was throughout high school and college, and I would submit these issues to local law enforcement. I did get a pet store shut down for 2 days, so well done. I was thanks, I was in every little bit makes a difference.
Small victories lead to big victories, right?
So and I was encouraged because I didn't always get a good response. This just like young Iowa blonde girl, and coming in with this footage. Oh, so adorable. That's you care about animals. Well, look how, and then Bob, look how cute this girl is. Like,
aren't you cute? Where's your mommy? Right.
Exactly. So I was getting encouraged that they were starting to pay attention and take things seriously. And so then what led me to farmed animal issues is I thought, this is what's going on in pet stores where people can come and go freely, and the public regularly in and out of these places. And it's like, when you think of like farmed animal, factory farm situations, or whatever even you think about, we don't know anything.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, what is going on in these industries then if all this terrible stuff is happening in front of the public with animals who people bring into their homes and love and care for?
Right.
And so then I started documenting issues with farmed animals.
How did you start documenting issues with farmed animals?
So when it first started, it was kind of from afar, like surveillance sort of things.
Okay. Like at the fence with a telescope lens kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah. That type of stuff. And like documenting trucks. I think a lot of individuals have driven by trucks filled with chickens or turkeys or pigs. And
I've actually gotten off exits because I couldn't do it.
Oh, it's so sad.
I'm like, nope, I gotta wait for you to pass.
Their little eyes, they're on their way to their deaths.
Yeah, and they're looking around, they're like, we're going for a ride. What's happening?
They're just, it's so sad. So it's awful. And then so that's kind of where things started, and then it sort of just like dawned on me. My career, I initially wanted to be a vet, and that's what I went to school. I was pre-vet for a while.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And but then it kind of dawned on me that I felt like this was the path that I was more destined to do.
Right, especially given your past and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just kind of made sense, and so then I started doing full-time investigations and started getting into the employment-based investigations, which is an entirely different thing when you get hired and when you're working day in and day out with the same individuals and
do some James Bond kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's fun. It's funny because like
put on a fake mustache and like a bald cap and all that.
Yeah. No,
not quite.
No, it's funny because I think a lot of people have that perception about it, that it's this very super spy James Bond. It's very exciting stuff. Yeah. No, it's like you're covered in all sorts of animal
bits.
Extra bits. We could say bits. That's probably the best thing to say there.
Animal bits.
Animal bit. You're covered in animal bits. Yeah.
Yes.
It's very, very, very real, I guess.
Right.
It's very real.
Right. So where did you were you doing the employment investigations just on your own, or were you working with an organization then? I
was working with an organization. I started with PETA originally. Okay. Yeah. And so I was with PETA for several years, and just seemed like a natural progression to. And
you left PETA to go to MFA to head up the employment investigation team there, correct?
Yeah, well, I did. So I guess the transition was slow. I took, when you're in the field for so long, after a while, it's like, I just need a little bit of a break, and which is something that I encourage for our investigators a lot. Cause I didn't really do that. I didn't take very many breaks in between investigations.
But you're a badass, so
I guess you gotta say it, yeah. So
it's recognize real recognizes real. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
No, I'm sorry. I'll stop. All right.
So yeah. But yeah, I.
So it's like completely derail your.
I know. Now my train of thought is all over the place. I'm focused on how awesome I am, and that's totally just distracted me from this entire conversation. But no, I encourage individuals to take breaks because it's very hard, and I didn't do that. And so then I took a little bit of a break, and I had a friend who worked for Mercy for Animals, and and so I was very interested in and I mean MFA's work is phenomenal, and this was going back, gosh, how many years has it been? 4.5-ish years?
Been here a little bit.
You've been here
a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. Oh yeah. Of course, I'm partial, but our investigations are awesome. But
thank you. It's important work. Yeah.
Absolutely, it's some of the most important work. It drives a lot of what we do and like that. So, what does an investigator normally do? Somebody after they've gone through their vetting process, their training process, like what does actually an investigator do? What is an investigator's job in essence?
Well, the investigator's job essentially is to go in, to be hired by these industries, and to work the job that they're hired to do. It takes a lot. You have to be paying attention to a lot of different things when working as an investigator. And I think it's one of the hardest things, is because your mind is going 110 million miles an hour. You have to make sure that you're being an excellent employee. That's, an important aspect of working in these industries. So you're being a good employee. You're covertly documenting evidence. You always have that on your mind also. And you're surrounded by animal abuse, which is the hardest thing about this job.
Yeah.
Is constantly day in and day out being just essentially thriving in a very negative environment.
And so, they're documenting the animal abuse, and they unfortunately are actually involved directly in it as well, correct?
Well, we do the jobs that we're hired to do,
right,
while abiding by all laws.
Right.
So
fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean there's a lot of standard practice issues in these industries,
right,
that are, that's what they're called. They're deemed standard practice. But if any number of these things are done to a cat or a dog, and this could be felony level. Right. Cruelty charges. We're talking about castrations without painkillers, tail docking. These are just crazy mutilations. They're just cutting body parts off and out. Just like now we're just gonna do that. Could you imagine if someone did that to a puppy? Like I'm gonna. All right, yeah, it's time for neutering, right? We use a nicer now. Yes. Neutering, right? So I'm just gonna grab the puppy and rip the testicles right out. Let me grab my box cutter over here, which is essentially what they use. And people would be outraged, horrified. Right. Yet we do it to these highly sensitive and intelligent animals.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that. That. In and of itself, we have all the above and beyond abuse that goes on, but then not to mention the standard practice issues. Right.
And a lot of those investigations allow MFA to bring charges to some people as well. Correct?
Definitely, yeah, cruelty charges for abuse, certainly.
So, what drives an investigator to do this type of job, given what their physical requirements are of that job?
Ooh, the physical requirements. That is one of the toughest things. I would say the emotional is by far the hardest. Next would be the physical. These are just crazy demanding physically positions. It's just I thought I was in shape before, right? I'm just like, okay, I go to the gym, I jog, I do some weights every now and again, and I am top notch in shape. And
right.
Wow. When I first got started in some of these jobs, it was like people who were twice my age, it was just amazing, to watch them work so fast. And it's overwhelming. So you need to be in very, very top physical condition. And it's a different level of physical, in being in good shape. I think a lot of people are like, I'm in good shape, but this is different. It works like muscles you didn't even know you had. It's right. I remember from one case, after a week of being on the job, I went to the grocery store that weekend, and I could barely move. I remember trying to grab things in the lower shelves, and it was I was collapsing onto the floor. My whole body was just in excruciating pain. And then when you have that on top of everything else to worry about, you don't want that. So you want to make sure to be not only in good shape when you start, but to stay in shape throughout.
Right.
Yeah.
Not only that, the mental shape someone I think has to be in to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the hardest thing, is what your mind goes through when you're on these jobs. And I think every investigator is a little bit different. For me, I like to, I didn't like to desensitize myself necessarily, because the animals motivated me, and I felt sort of bad about desensitizing myself because they were going through this, and it was hard for me, but it's way worse for them. And so it's I need to let that in. I need to accept that. I need to feel that. And that was a very motivating factor for me, was looking in those animals' eyes and just feeling their pain and their suffering, and that it's just from the bottom of your soul, it just hurts. And but that's what we're there to help make a difference. We're there to help stop this.
I remember talking to one of the old video editors.
Sure.
He says he kind of has to he has to turn his brain off to it. And he'd have to turn his brain off and almost like it's like a lamp. But the only time I actually get to him is when they look in the camera. Like you see the eyes go to look at the camera and like that. And he said that's when it's like, okay, time for a break.
Oh, yeah.
That was his thing.
And I think the research associates and video editors, and I think that those individuals don't get enough credit either, who do all the behind the scenes things. Because of course it's hard to be in these facilities, but watching all of the footage is not easy. Most people, they see 2 seconds of footage, graphic footage flash on the screen. They're like, look away. It's awful. It's terrible. I can't watch that. I can't watch that. Let me go eat my chicken sandwich, though.
Yeah, I don't do that, but I do the other thing. I'm like, luckily in IT, I can go like, nope, pause. Okay, all right, back to what I was doing, and then like scroll, and fix the tech. Yeah. So I wouldn't be a good investigator. I would not be a good investigator. Most people wouldn't. Yeah, and
it's funny because when I started recruiting and training investigators, I always had this idea that this is gonna be awesome because I have this. It's because for me, what it was there's this massive problem happening,
right?
And we need to get evidence. We need to have footage. We need to expose what is happening here, and why wouldn't I do that? Like, why wouldn't I? This is a big problem. I need to go and I need to fix it. And so I assume that, like so many other people, have that same mentality. And it turns out that not a lot of people want to do that.
Oddly enough, right?
I know. Working in a slaughterhouse. What? No.
So if that's not what drives them, if not like what do you think drives the investigators you bring in then?
I mean, I think that is, and that's, I think, one of the hardest things too, is because the people who are interested in doing this job are people who care most about animals. And the people who care most about animals, the idea of being in these environments day in, day out for, X amount of time, who knows how long the investigation could go.
Right.
Is terrifying. So it's, having that, it takes passion, it takes dedication, it takes that draw to want to make a difference.
Do you? This is the thing I was wondering, if are investigators are they vegan or is that like a requirement of the position or how does that usually work?
How does that work
in that sense?
Everyone is different. So okay. I mean, it's it's not a requirement. But I mean, it's I talk to all different types of people about this role, and everyone's kind of in a different place. Some of them are vegan, some of them are vegetarian, some of them are pescatarian, some of them are just starting to learn about the issue. It's just it's kind of all over the board, really.
Do you find those who weren't vegan going in, do they tend to make that switch, or do they tend to stay the same?
No, I've never. I've brought in people who are still eating meat, and I've never known of anyone who hadn't changed like 100% and stopped. Imagine. It's I think it's impossible. We're very disconnected from these industries, right? We go to it's a lot easier to go to the grocery store and buy these pretty packages with this nice like lush greenery and these happy animals frolicking around in the pasture, which is what we think about whenever you ask.
It's the branding too.
Yeah, it's so misleading. And you ask anyone, like, what does a farm look like? And they'll tell you, there's a red barn, there's open pastures, there's some cows and chickens and pigs running around, and
Farmer John in his little straw hat and his overalls.
Good old Farmer John.
Calling over Betsy so she can go, take a slug to the head. Yeah.
Take a slug to the head. Yeah. That's when we don't hear any more about it, is when the slug to the head. But I mean, it's nothing like that. There's no green grass. No. There's no happy environment. It's just it's factory farms is what is taken over.
Yeah, I think what gets me is you have people like, well, the farm I grew up on, or I went to a farm, and they have this whole mentality of like the one farm they went to when they were on a class trip when they were 5, then that's, so basically I find that a lot of people think the investigations are an example of a very, very small percentage of farms.
Yeah, and the small percentage would be the one farm that someone has been to one time in their life where there were like 5 animals, and then that's a different situation.
Right.
That's someone who just has 5 animals. That is not the industrialized farming setup that we have going on right now.
Right, because the farms like that, they couldn't sustain the numbers that they're needed anyway.
No, yeah, that's it. If you break down the numbers, there's no way. We consume way too. I mean, it's completely unnecessary.
How do you prepare someone to take on this role?
Yeah, it's tough. There's only really so much that you can do to prepare someone for going into this type of position. Definitely watching videos, although I had seen like every undercover video before I started doing this work, and I thought, yeah, no problem, I got this, right? I can handle this. I mean, it's hard, and sure, I had hesitations about it. I think anyone would and does, but I thought, yeah, I'm good. And then when you go in, it's like, wow, it's very different when you're just sitting in front of a screen. You can hit pause. It's this very just small screen in front of your face. And now we've brought in smell, which that in and of itself is shocking. The smell on like farms. And I mean, just because of the extreme confinement. Right? I mean, like these animals, it's not...
Which aids to just, like infections and disease anyway, on top of everything else they have to go through.
Disease-ridden environments. Just ammonia packed. Like it's jarring. It burns, and I mean, they're just terrible environments. So then, I mean, you have that, and then you have like blood being splattered on you. It's just like it paints this whole different, again, like kind of what I started originally. It's very real. Like it's like, wow, like this is real. It
seems like difference between watching a war movie and actually going to war.
I think that's a good analogy. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do investigators have to go through like a psychological test to make sure they're stable, or?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I like to really highlight that aspect to make sure that you just have to be able to. I always tell people, really, the personality that you want to have is the ability to move past things, the ability to realize, and that's what helped me a lot.
Right.
Is knowing that these things are happening whether I am there or not, and I'm there to help make a difference, whereas someone else who's hired in my same position wouldn't be doing the exact same thing. So that I'm able to use that and realize that I'm not the one who's doing this. I didn't create this factory farming setup. I'm not the one who, I might be working there, I may be documenting abuse, things like that, but on a whole, like, I didn't create this problem.
Right.
And I'm trying to make a difference. And so being able to just keep that forward moving thinking about it, I think is the best way. Whereas some people, I talk to a lot of people who are like this, they'll tell me, oh, that would stay with me forever. I wouldn't be able to, I would just be crying every single night. For years, I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Like it's terribly upsetting stuff. Most people are very bothered by it. Absolutely. But like I remember from one of my talks, one guy, he was just like, oh, that one image that you showed me, that's just going to be with me forever. And a lot of people are like that. Yeah. And it's like, you just have to just be, that is what it is. Yeah. I'm trying to help make a difference, and
that's kind of part of it then.
And and we are making a difference. So it's encouraging to see the positive changes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've from all investigations, people actually willing to make the change and willing to get rid of the cages and stop using certain practices and stuff like that. Have you had to deal with essentially like a PTSD coming from previous investigators when they come off a job?
Yeah, I can speak best for myself. I think that this job impacts everyone differently. You have to, during trainings, I always talk about having an outlet for that kind of stress, making sure that you're letting those emotions out. You're talking to us, you're talking to whoever you need to be talking to make sure that you're dealing with those. Because if you bury, it's going to come out in very strange ways, which happened to me. Which is like, that's happened to me. I would just like suppress. And then it was like, I remember one time I was at like the grocery store, right? And I'm sitting here like in the produce section, I'm picking out tomatoes, and I'm just like, I don't know which tomato to get. And then I remember knocking a bunch on the floor, and I just got so upset. I just like was like, oh my God, I knocked these tomatoes on the floor and my life is ruined. it's just like, and I didn't realize what was happening, right? So like those emotions are going to come out somewhere, and so you have to make sure that you're dealing with them at the time, and you're not just going to have this like weird breakdown at a grocery store.
So do you have like essentially like counseling sessions with investigators? In that sense?
I'm always available like as a resource for investigators, and some individuals like to. I mean, everyone's different, you know. Like some people, you know, they don't really want to talk about it. They're just like, ugh, the day is done. It's over, I'm moving on. And then other investigators really want to, like, it helps to talk it out.
Sure.
And I think that's great. I think you need to do what is best for you. Others like to exercise, you want to work it off. Music is a really big motivator. It was for me also. A lot of investigators that helps with. So making sure you just have that outlet, whatever it is for you.
So what is your opinion on the average worker who's not an investigator but who actually works at these facilities, who are just quote doing their job? How do you view them when during the investigation and after investigations? What is your opinion, your view of people like that?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting because I don't know that I really had an idea of employees in these facilities before I started. In fact, I had this sort of like, who would work in these facilities? I mean, when you think about anyone, if you ask anyone, like, would you work in a slaughterhouse? Most people are like, no, that sounds terrible.
Right. Who would do such a thing?
Why would you even suggest that? Do you know how many employees? I mean, there's so many employees working in these industries, and to support people who are demanding these products, like, people have to supply and demand.
Yeah.
If we stop demanding them, then this will all stop.
Exactly.
But that's I've witnessed employees who are not being treated well either. That's something that I think individuals don't think about, is that not only does this industry exploit and take advantage of animals, I mean, there's also a human element as well of employees not being given breaks and just worked very strenuous hours meant to keep up with the demands. It's all about the bottom line, right? So it's how many animals can we raise and kill in the shortest amount of time, the cheapest way possible.
Right.
And that's where their focus is. So of course this is going to be hard on individual employees. And
the sounds of LA, everybody.
I know, like, that's looking at David like, is that going to be a problem?
It probably will be, but it's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. This is real. This is raw. That's how we know it's real and raw.
That's right. We should just go outside and be right in the middle of it all.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So now my mind is on the sirens.
No, so
let's see if you're listening.
Yes. How you view the current work, how you view workers who work there, and the mistreating of the animals and the people themselves.
Yeah. So I
got you back.
Sorry, I was okay. So it was surprising to me that because when you work as an employment based, I mean, you're day in and day out working with the same individuals, and so it's human nature to care about people who you're working with. And there were individuals who were not malicious to the animals. Certainly there are those individuals who are viciously beating animals and felony level cruelty charge issues going on. Then there are other individuals who are, I don't know, they feel maybe they can't get other jobs. There are
probably immigrants as well.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So it's just and I remember one girl who I worked with, she was like kissing birds on the mouth. Even one guy at a dairy, like, it was so weird, the owner of this farm, he would kiss these baby calves on the face, but then, like, he would walk by others and, like, kick them. And it's so strange. There's just a very, like, I know, yeah, it's just a very, very strange sort of climate. But I mean, there were individuals who who weren't necessarily doing things to be vicious, but they're in this industry. It's really a systemic issue is the problem. And so there's these individuals who are just working these jobs, and they might not even be like vicious to the animals, but they're it's a lot of poorly trained. So a lot of animals suffer for that reason, even from individuals who aren't necessarily trying to do that. So it's, I mean, I think that is a challenging component. And what I find interesting is also there have been interviews from individuals who work in slaughterhouses who've been working in these industries for like 20 years. And it talks about how their lives become much more violent. And I mean, I don't see how it couldn't become more violent when you spend all day, every day, killing animals.
Right.
You're taking lives.
Do you think that is as kind of a result of just doing like essentially the violence all day, or do you think that's also a sense of them pushing down what they're doing, what would be a natural shock to their system that's coming out another way? Yeah.
I think that it's, and I guess I don't know. I don't know what specifically it would be doing. I think it's just the nature of being in that negative environment is going to then come out, especially for individuals who are not sure how to deal with that.
Right.
And a lot of them probably don't realize that those types of things are building in their subconscious. When you're slitting the neck of anyone,
right,
that is going to stay with you. That is going to mess with your mind.
Right. It's going to come up in some way, whether or not you're pushing that down, it comes out in the produce section with tomatoes, or at home with your family, or
not the tomatoes,
or a cow who's just standing there and you just releases something, and fortunately it's this cow who's minding its own business. So
well, and what I found a lot of also is individuals. I mean, like I said, you ask anyone who wants to work at a slaughterhouse, raise your hand. Who wants to work at a slaughterhouse? How many is that going to be?
Right.
And so when a lot of individuals who work there, they don't want to work there. They don't like their jobs. They don't maybe like animals. They're frustrated with their lives. Like it's just not a good environment for anyone.
Right. So given all of what we've talked about, what would you think is the worst part of doing a job like that?
For as an investigator, or
yes.
The worst part in general, I mean, is by far just the emotional impacts of what goes on. Making individual connections with animals. I mean, I have so many memories. Of course, I can say that, I'm moving toward the greater good, things like that. But I have so many memories. I mean, those are things that stay with me. They're of course painful. Those things that happen in the moment, it's painful. There have been nights where I got home from investigation. I just wanted to curl up in a ball and in my bed and just never leave. And it's just you'll feel those. And I mean, so you got to keep moving because we're creating change and things are happening. But by far, the emotional of what happens is, I think, the hardest part.
What is the most rewarding part then?
The rewarding is seeing change come when an investigation breaks, and especially with social media these days. Like when I started, we didn't have social media like that.
Yeah.
And that's back in my day.
Back in the day, we didn't have MySpace. I don't know why I went old hillbilly, but all right.
That doesn't surprise me, really.
Hey, that's fair. Okay, fair enough.
So it was just. I think now news travels a lot better. People are sharing. They've got a whole bunch of friends on social media, and that's, I think, one of a really important thing that individuals can do is share information when it comes out, and that's how. And so, because it's rewarding as an investigator when you start to see that, when you see people who read it, like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. How can I help? What can I do? I've gone vegan. I've gone vegetarian. I cut out one meal today, and every little bit makes a difference. I think a lot of people will think, oh, veganism, that is just, I don't know how to do that.
That's so extreme.
It's so extreme.
That's right.
So extreme. But slicing animals' throats is not extreme.
No.
No. Interesting. It's a change. People don't like change. So
right.
That's a lot of what it boils down to is, I have to figure out something else to cook, and I have to redo my whole lifestyle. And the easiest thing to go about is just slowly kind of start swapping stuff out. So I always tell people, is it just slowly start swapping stuff out before you know it. You're eating vegan and you didn't even realize it.
That's to people well, how do I cook? I said, think of something you like and just go you like lasagna. Awesome. Just most of that is almost all of that is perfectly fine. There's a couple cheese and usually the meat you have in it. We'll just swap those out and you have lasagna still.
So you mean that vegans eat more than lettuce?
Yes, believe it or not, and I am proof of it over the past couple of days.
Okay.
I'm gonna need an extra seat when I go back to Atlanta.
I know. That's how I've been feeling this whole week. Has just been nonstop eating. And that's what I think, a lot of people have a hard time with is, what am I going to eat? And it's like, anything that you eat can be vegan.
Anything you can eat, I can eat
better.
vegan.
Yeah.
So how do you measure? Like how do you from a head of investigation department and even as an investigator measure the change? How do you know how do you know that a change has happened or something is actually happening as a result of investigation?
Everything. Well, I think the public awareness is, people are still learning. Like, I'll still talk to people every day who they think that they need animal protein. They think that animals are kept on nice farms and that these are isolated incidents. And so it's very much a learning process. So I think that the public awareness aspect is huge. Another thing that we've seen really positive success with is corporate outreach. Yep. So we work with companies, with major food providers, and we work with them on how to implement better animal welfare policies. So these are things like getting rid of battery cages, which is extreme confinement for egg-laying hens, right. Gestation crates, which are extreme confinement for pigs. Yep. So things like that, also mutilations without painkillers, things like that, castration, tail docking. So these are things that we work with corporations to try to get them to implement those better policies. And we're seeing a very positive response. A lot of it has to do with the public saying, hey, this is a problem and you need to fix this. So that is also a big part of it too, is the public being outraged about this. And companies are then going to change when they realize that people are upset about it.
I know a lot of organizations, MFA being one, and most of them use like change.org petitions to especially measure that reaction from the public to take back to a company and say, these are dollars you're going to lose if you don't start changing like that.
Sign and share. They make a difference. People ask me that, like, do they really make a difference? Yes. They make a huge difference. Sign, share. If we had like millions of signatures on all of our petitions, that companies would be coming to us saying, oh, what can I do? What can I do
to keep you away from me?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Please. What can we do? What do you want? Pillows for our animals? That's
blankets at the nest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do you celebrate these type of successes and changes like directly with investigators, or that's just
sure? Yeah, I think that it's very exciting to know that individual who went into those facilities, who their blood, sweat, tears of everything going in, and seeing a change come out of it that affects millions of animals. That is a really, really big thing. That as an investigator, it's kind of hard to sometimes think about those victories in the future and things that can come of it, because when you're right down in the middle of it all, it's like, I mean, you're just surrounded by abuse and killing and things like that. So it's in the moment sort of hard to see those things, but I think it's very those are things that should be celebrated. It's on a greater good, helping animals.
Do you some like a Starbucks gift card or
Starbucks gift card? There you go.
Well done. Good job. Well, on to the next one.
Investigators are our number one priority.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that it's something that we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can for them. If they're struggling, I always encourage that. Come, tell me what is happening. Let's talk about it. What can we do? What can we do for you to help make your life easier? Because their life is hard. I know.
Oh, absolutely.
It's tough. Yeah.
So when investigations break and we get the change.org stuff, how do companies respond? Not publicly, but respond to an investigation team to try to rectify the issue, or do they try to fight you first, or how do companies normally respond?
Every company is different, and I don't work directly with that. That would be our corporate outreach department, who does a lot of that interaction. So I'm not involved in a lot of those sort of behind the scenes discussions. Sure. But I just in general, I think it a lot of times depends on the company. But more and more, we're seeing companies who are working with us and who are trying to do what they can. What can they do to stay ahead of things? Definitely getting rid of extreme confinement is one of the number. I mean, this is going to be a thing of the past in no time. It's just how long is it going to take to phase it out? So, I mean, companies are They need to be headed that direction. And they need to understand is people don't like animals being abused, whether they're eating them or not. They want to know that their cows have not been kicked in the face.
Right.
So they need to be doing things like installing live stream video cameras to deter animal abuse. Even if it's because people are afraid to abuse animals because they might be on film. That's whatever stops the abuse.
Surprise, you're on abuse camera. Okay.
Yeah, that would be an interesting show.
That would definitely be an interesting, terrible show. Maybe you could host that show.
Yeah. Thanks. I'd be interested in that, actually.
That'd be, I'll pitch that the next retreat. How about that?
Yeah, we should do that.
We should pitch that.
Uh-huh.
So does so I know there hasn't been too much investigation work, especially on your side in other countries. But do you see that being different in developing countries? Because things like China, they have like the dog slaughter, and it's a lot more, I guess more in their face and a little more desensitized to it. Do you see that being different?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, in some countries you'll see that where the dogs in China is a very good example of that. And you'll see other just live markets that are more open. In the United States, we're very closed off. We're very let's separate that industry as far away from us as possible. Yeah. Whereas in other countries, the perception is a little bit different. So I mean, I think that that's an important aspect though, is to help individuals realize that animals are feeling, thinking, sentient beings.
Right.
And I think that it's just a lot of times when you're raised in an environment where animals are being treated in a certain way, it's almost like that is the way it is. But then when you take a step back and stop and accept, wait a second, let me just view this on a whole here. And I think that will help open. I think a lot of it is going to be opening people's eyes.
Yeah, the Mexico investigation was like that because there's a lot of very brutal video in that as well. And Mexico is another one of those countries that I think they think it was. I don't think they thought it was quite like that until those investigation videos went out. And
most people don't. That's more outdoor noises.
Yes.
Most people don't, and that's why it's so important to start doing investigations in other countries, particularly when you look at the numbers and you break down the numbers of animals who are being slaughtered in these other countries. And it's really important to
we got some special guests on the show, I think.
So loud. But
unexpected guests, I think is what it is.
Yeah, like before we started doing investigations in Canada, for example, the Canadians would be like, oh, that's just the United States who abuses their animals in this way. Right. And so it's important to, and then in Canada, sure enough, we go there, we do investigations, same thing. It's the same, and so that's why it's so important. Then in Mexico, I mean, it's the same everywhere. It's just like, okay, well, that's just these other countries. Our country is better for X, Y, and Z. And then, so it's so crucial to show people that, look, this is what is happening in your country, and you need to do something about it. Yeah. And you need to, because people be upset. I mean, the Mexico investigations were incredibly successful on the fact of awareness alone of people who saw this footage and were just, how can you not be outraged by this footage? I mean, cows being beaten over the head with sledgehammers. That is, I mean, just these tiny, simple points of every single thing that we saw. And then when you combine it all, it's just like this is, people are outraged as they should be.
I think in any country you go into investigations, you're going to find something that the public wasn't aware of.
For sure.
Regardless. There's something like a developing country in like areas of China that some of those families, they slaughter animals themselves on a daily basis, and then they go get supplement meat products from the store. Would be shocked because it's completely different from what happens on their little area as opposed to a larger farm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know, especially since we had talked about on at the retreat where we're talking about how China is starting to views animal product consumption as kind of a sign of progression, a sign of wealth.
Yeah.
So that's happening a lot more. So I'm sure that means more demand. That means more workers. That means more animals, and that means more sadness. So essentially,
lots more sadness.
Lots of more sadness.
Well, and that's what's too bad, really, is watching other countries follow what we've done.
Right.
Essentially, it's like because that's what's happening. Like, demand is going up in other countries. India is another good example of that. And so we want to make sure and really try to reverse that from getting to the level of what we've done here.
Right.
We need to make sure that they understand that. Stop. Terrible idea.
the bud
Go
now.
back. No.
We messed up. Go back.
Yeah,
exactly.
Don't copy us. Terrible idea.
We screwed up. Stop.
Yeah.
So imagine, if you will.
Okay. I'm imagining.
Imagine, if you will.
Eyes closed.
Right.
Right.
Imagine, if you will, that, like, let's say, like hens, for example. So the hair and nail stuff. So all the cage, everything's cage free at this point. Let's just say all cages are gone, at least in the United States.
Cages gone.
Okay, cages are gone.
Okay.
Right. So do you think that is the next step just go back and reinvestigate the same companies to push them to free range or whatever the next step is, or is there another avenue that has to be gone down?
Okay, so cages are gone, but animals are still being slaughtered.
Yes, the cages are gone, but now they're cage free, which we know is not. I don't want to say better, because I don't think it's better. It's still terrible.
No, it's less terrible.
Right. Yes.
It's a just different form of terrible.
Yes. So is the next step to go? So you investigate Tyson and go to cage, and they go cage free, right? It's still terrible. So is the next step after to go back through Tyson and say, okay, now you're cage free, now you have to go free range, or again, whatever that next step would be.
Well, as long as animals are being raised and killed for food, there's always going to be a level of suffering that we need to understand and accept. And if you want to eat meat, then you are accepting that you are supporting suffering. And so that is just going to be an ongoing thing. When you hang an animal upside down and slit their throat, this, at the end of the day, it's, right now animals are very heavily abused. They're treated terribly. But even when you take that level out, at the end of the day, they're still killed.
Right.
And it's like, people always say, what about humane meat? And it's like, tell me how you humanely kill someone.
Humane meat does not exist.
It's just very ironic, sort of humane meat. That would, how do you humanely murder a human?
Right.
It's just, it's not.
The thing I always say is, if it's something you wouldn't want done to yourself, then it's not humane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So actually, would I want myself to be hung upside down and have my throat slit and disemboweled? Probably not. It's not humane.
Sounds kind of bad. Sounds
something you don't want.
Really terrifying.
Especially considering a lot of them, the stunning doesn't work anyway.
No, that's a really big problem also, and that's one of the biggest things we saw in Mexico was animals not even being stunned to begin with. Yeah. And that's the speed at which processing lines move in the United States. Even a lot of animals aren't stunned before being slaughtered.
Right.
And so you're essentially being boiled alive, or whatever the situation may be.
Lobsters and things like that, as Derek shared.
Yes. Lobsters as well. Yeah.
Yes. So what can someone who doesn't think they could do this, but essentially a non-investigator who wants to be active and help, what would you suggest someone who can't be an investigator do to help with investigations?
So that would be most people. So
fair enough.
Most of you can really help by getting the word out. Again, like with going back to petitions, things like that, people, I think, will maybe just bypass them or not realize the importance of them. I think sometimes maybe it doesn't feel like you're doing enough. I get that from a lot of people, is I feel like I need to do more, I want to do more. So signing and sharing those petitions. When you share those petitions, it reaches all of your friends and family, individuals, and then that will help then multiply. Then those people will see it and share, and that's how it helps out a lot. So of course, if you haven't reduced meat consumption, if you're not vegetarian, vegan, things like that, that would be really the number one way that you can help animals. And so sharing the information, stopping eating animals,
stopping contributing to the sadness.
Yeah,
actually.
The sadness. I feel like that should be the title of the show. The sadness.
The sadness. Instead of being down with the sickness, you're down with the sadness.
Sounds like a Stephen King novel.
It
The
does.
Sadness.
It does, actually. It does. So if somebody does think they can do this and something they actually think they actually are able to do, want to help with, how can someone actually become an investigator?
Yes. Talk to me. Let's talk.
How do they do that?
That's so you can. You want me to give me an email address? Should I do that?
Yeah, that's if you're comfortable doing that, that's fine.
I'm fine with that. It's
Okay.
Lindsay, LINDSAYW @mercyforanimals.org. So reach out to me anytime. Even to people who have hesitations, I always talk to people about that, is that you'll likely have hesitations. That's okay. I can help and kind of just talk more about the process, what goes into it, and determine if this role is the right role for you. It's a very important role. It's the ground floor of creating change, and there are definitely individuals that appeals to. They want to be one of those people who are on the front lines, who are really there. They're hidden. That's one of the other things too, is that it's not like I did this. No, you don't get to talk about it.
It's all
you
low
gotta,
key.
that's kind of the nature of this work. But so anyone who's interested, definitely reach out to me, and I would love to talk more about it.
And I'll have move my mic around. I'll have your also put your email in the show notes. So if somebody goes to the show notes, they can email you directly. Easier.
That would be great.
Yeah, let's make it a little easier. Make it a little easier. So I have some final big questions. I call them.
Bigger questions than these questions?
Yes. So if you could write a letter to yourself before you went, not dealing with investigations, but before you went vegan, what would you say to yourself?
At that age, it would probably be a bunch of animal drawings, stick figure characters.
Fair enough.
Dear future me, with like letters like the R's backwards and things like that. that's what I'm envisioning in my mind. I would love to do that. I think that would be amazing to it was sort of one of those things that you see in a movie, and it's you open this this box or something, and it's what is this?
Oh my God.
It says, I would inspire myself to do way more at that point. It was sort of it was just a very slow awareness, slow transition thing for me. And I would write a lot about how important these issues are and how you need to jump right on this now. And this needs to be your focus versus getting distracted by other things that might be going on in life. And that's because and I feel when you work toward your passions, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, these are things that I would be doing regardless, and I was doing them regardless beforehand. And so I think that I would just really talk about the positive things that come about it, and some of what the future has turned into. When I was vegetarian, people didn't even know what vegetarian meant. I remember I went down to the South, right?
Sorry.
And we were out to eat at this restaurant, and this is I was even just vegetarian at this time. And I told the waitress that I was vegetarian. Do you have any? It was some fish restaurant, something like that. Do you have anything that's vegetarian? She's like, she's like, yeah, we've got chicken and fish. And it's oh man,
this is gonna be tough.
I'll just have some water and saltines, thank you.
Even then, you're checking.
Why's
your chicken stock in the crackers? Okay, this is getting stupid.
Yeah, they like to hide animal products and everything.
Oh man.
So I think that's a really interesting question, and so I would just encourage a lot of that of inspiring. You are not wrong. That would probably be the biggest thing. Now I'm all worked up about it. It would be. You are right. You are not wrong. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because that was what I heard a lot of. I remember going to one of my family's weddings or whatever, and of course the options were chicken or beef or something, and they brought this plate of animals, and I'm just I'm not eating that, and then my family's like, you're being rude. I'm being rude? They just brought me my friends on a plate.
They just have a carcass in the middle of the table.
Why am I being rude? But I remember that, and so I think that having that would have been very helpful to hear for me at that age. Yeah.
What would you say to the pre-investigator you?
The pre-investigator me, I think that those sort of times kind of, well, I guess it took me a while to just sort of, maybe like 5 years or so before getting into investigations, but like same I think sort of thing is that this is where, and maybe inspiring that even more so to even get started earlier, make sure that I was focusing on and doing the most that I could and really sticking to it and not sort of venture, because I lived in an I don't know land for a while, right? I went to college and I was pre-vet and realized that being a vet, like what really turned me off of being a vet was of the like ag campus area, they had this cow with a porthole in her side.
Yes, I've seen that before.
It's like clear like glass, like to see all of their insides. And so that was like, ooh, wait a second here. Okay, this is, and at Iowa State, I went to Iowa State, and they're a very like ag heavy school. Mm-hmm. And so I was exposed to a lot of that early on. And also then I started seeing the animal research side of things, and it just felt all of a sudden like my dreams were crushed, right? Because it's like when anyone thinks of like, what can I do to help animals? They're thinking, okay, I'm going to be a vet. Because that's what everyone thinks. I'm going to be a veterinarian. And so then it was like my dreams from like when I was the tiniest of wee Todd.
wee little thing. Oddly enough, you were this big. You were about,
I know, that's
Ant-Man kind of a thing. Okay. Just wee.
Yeah, but so I think just inspiring that like this is your right path, because and then when the dream of being a vet was sort of crushed, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I kept jumping around to different majors and so I felt sort of lost, and I feel like had I just followed those passions, I wouldn't have gone through that I'm lost phase.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I find it odd that the veterinarians in general aren't at very least vegetarian.
That's interesting.
I always find that odd.
It's really interesting. I've always thought that was strange. And I think more and more of them now are starting to be, which is great. There are vet schools now that we're seeing that don't do animal testing and things like that, and have we're starting to see just new aspects of not using these archaic porthole cow things. So that, but I do think it's really interesting. Also, like shelter workers who work in like cat and dog shelters, I always found that very interesting, that those individuals still eat meat, or even for like their fundraisers, they'll do like meat for events and things like that.
Yeah.
And actually, this one place that I went to was like this bird sanctuary with like exotic birds like macaws and things like that, and they were having this fundraiser and they were serving chicken at this fundraiser. Like, how I just kind of like the woman handed it to me, I was like, is this a joke? This is like the same thing. What's the difference? Why don't we fry up some of these birds then? Like,
right?
What's the difference? That's the disconnect. That's the disconnect, is that we've put all these animals into the we love these animals, we're gonna save these animals, and then all these animals are like, we're gonna bash you in the head and like fry you up on the skillet. Like it's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense. We gotta flick that switch on.
Yeah. Well, I used to work for an agency, and we did the Georgia Aquariums site.
Oh.
We had a partnership with them, so we had our Christmas parties at the Georgia Aquarium, and there was always a buffet. And can you guess what one of the options was? Fish.
Oh.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is funny." I'm like, "This is messed up," because they're like, "Oh, look, there's a giant tank next to us." How are you not making? How do you not see this is? I'll have the salad. How do you not see this is like this is messed up? And it just boggled my mind. I don't know.
Lots of mind-boggling happening.
It's mind-boggling because it's so crazy. Your mind's like in a bottle.
I know. Come on, people. Let's get it.
Right?
Let's get it. It's not hard.
It is really not.
It's really not hard.
If I can get it, it's not hard.
That is probably the best point that I think you've ever made.
If I can get this, then you should have no problem. I think I should have a shirt that says that.
I think that is spot on.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm. And of course, I think we'll end it with you insulting me. Thank you, Lindsay, for why not? It usually starts that way. Might as well end it that way. So Thank you for coming on and spending this over an hour going over investigations with me. It was awesome and enlightening.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad that we were able to make this work. This has been a very fun hour, and I've enjoyed speaking with you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.